Hello everyone, welcome to Monaco. We're back, ready for the final live stream with LSI for the Watchalongs before tomorrow's race on Sunday, of course, the Grand Prix. We will not be covering that one, but this will be an epic session, the best qualifying session of all throughout the season. I cannot wait to see who will come out on top. We've seen Charles Leclerc top the times in all three practice sessions. Absolutely rapid throughout. A 10.953 was the lap time that we were able to set in practice 3. 10.5 I think was qualifying last year. I just want to double check that. A 10.2 was qualifying last year. So we've still got a little bit more lap time to gain here in qualifying. Who's going to be able to come out on top, though? We don't quite know. The McLarens are strong, but Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen are the ones that were up top. Charles Leclerc, the fastest by a mile, to almost 3 tenths ahead of the Dutchman. But Red Bull definitely have a little bit of hope. It's just whether Max Verstappen can get hold of that C6 tyre that they seem to be struggling with throughout the session. Lando Norris in P3, as they were very, very close to the Dutchman in the end. Oscar Piastri a few tenths back in P4. Then it was Lewis Hamilton who had an off in the final moments. They were 5 tenths away, 5.5 tenths away from their teammates' final lap time. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton into the barrier at turn 3, into Massenet. A little bit of front right damage. They lost the front right tyre and then a little bit of contact with the rear. They were looking at the back. I think they should be okay, and I don't think they'll need any severe repairs. It's then Alex Albon in P6 with Liam Lawson and Carlos Sainz. So the two Williams is looking very good, but it's Liam Lawson who's absolutely flying at their first outing for Formula 1 in Monaco. Yuki Tsunoda in P9. And then it's the two Mercedes in P10 and 11 who are struggling around this circuit. The tyres just don't seem to be working, and George Russell said they are running out of ideas. Fernando Alonso in P12, then it was Nico Hülkenberg who almost crashed into the final corner, but ended P13. With no damage to their car. Pierre Gasly not really shining as they have done so far this season. P14 for them. Lance Stroll P15. Oliver Bearman with a 10-place grid penalty after the qualifying, of course. They're in P16. It's Isaac Hadjar in P17. Esteban Ocon in P18. Then it's Bortoletto and Franco Colapinto at the back. Colapinto made some good progress towards the end, but still is the slowest of the lot. We're just waiting for the green flag and we can go once again. Let's see who can get the job done. Sorry for the delay there. We're just making sure everything is ready to go. And hopefully the green flag will start shortly. We're just a minute away now, less than a minute away from the beginning. And hopefully we can get a good session with no red flags. That would be good. Well, we saw some blocking in FP2. That was a little bit difficult for a few drivers. That was Yuki Tsunoda actually blocking Esteban Ocon in the final couple of corners as they entered the pit lane going slowly. And then also Isaac Hadjar in the tunnel section. Not quite the same risk that they had in the FP2 session. No, sorry, not in the F2 session last year where they had that brilliant reaction time. It actually meant that they had to move out the way, but there wasn't really that much of a risk. They had plenty of time to do so. The two Williams will leave the pit lane first and see what they can do. All right. As the session is getting ready, we're just going to quickly do some syncing things to make sure that we're all good to go. And then hopefully we'll all be good to go in a matter of seconds. Should be absolutely fine. Just trying to get everything ready to go, and hopefully we should be fine. And it is back on your screen around about now. There you go. Everything is perfect. Just making sure everything's good to go, and then we will be perfect with the session. Lovely stuff. Let's get it underway. 15 minutes on the clock. We've got a few medium tyre runners. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I was going to say that we won't be seeing any of the medium tyre runners because it seems that everybody has figured out the soft compound tyre. Now, why... would I say that? It's because they are doing a little bit of a trick with the tyre blankets, are the teams. They are putting them on. Sorry for this. They're putting on the tyre blankets for a little less temperature to make sure that they can time the kind of temperature so the tyres don't get too hot throughout the rest of the lap and have the peak performance at the beginning. So instead they have the performance throughout the lap. So they're just making them a little bit colder. However, it seems that the Alpines don't want to do that. They want to run the medium tyre and just absolutely blast it and see what it does for their car. Well, Hulkenberg goes purple. The two Williams have a little bit of an iffy situation. They both backed out of their laps, so they're not really having the best of times right now. Hulkenberg's time is alright as a banker, but they've still got a lot of progress to be made on that tyre. We're still going to get some track evolution, but because of all the junior categories, because of the Porsche Cup, we've got, of course, the practice sessions that we've just been through. The track is pretty rubbered in. It's only going to get more rubbered in and hotter as the session goes, so those lap times will continue to improve. There is Albon crossing the line with a 13.1, 2 tenths ahead of Hulkenberg. Sainz to P4 doesn't get ahead of either of the Saubers. So the two Williams that are looking very strong and not having quite such a simple time. It's Charles Leclerc's purple in the middle sector. It's Antonelli purple in the first sector, though, by 2 tenths. Or a bit over, actually, over Leclerc's first sector. That is just a 10th advantage that Leclerc currently has, a 13.0. We're still going to be getting a lot quicker than that. Hamilton to P6 not having the best of laps. It's all a little bit rocky at the moment. And I think we've got a bit of a blockage as well. A few cars getting in the way of others. Max Verstappen is waiting for the traffic. They're waiting for everybody to set their lap so they can go out. And then they will set their lap in clear air. This is a strategy call from the Red Bull team as well. And Sonoda's already out on track, so maybe that's actually Max Verstappen making that call himself. Lawson tops the times. Antonelli, of course, did take that top spot in the first sector, but Stroll has since beaten that one. Lawson really enjoying this circuit, finding the lap early on, linking it up quite nicely, a 12.9, only driver to get into the 12-second margin. Antonelli so close away from that. But yeah, we've still got a bit of time, but it's Monaco, you know, if there's a red flag, you could be in trouble. Lando Norris goes green in the first sector. It's Ocon to P7 with a purple final. It's going to be Behrman to P2, who's really making a stand for it here. That's brilliant from Oliver Behrman, who's got the 10-place grid penalty that they need to try and sort out. If they qualify pole, they start P10. If they qualify anywhere in the top 10, or if they qualify 10th or below, they will start in P20. They've got to try and get themselves within the top 10 to have a bit more of an advantage. That's a purple middle sector for Oscar Piastri. Could they try and get another pole position this season? Lando Norris goes to the top of the times to show that the McLaren is still the quickest car as of now. But it's Oscar Piastri out the final corner and across the line with DRS. And it's going to be a P1 for the Aussie. By half a second almost as well. Absolutely humongous advantages in that middle sector, and a little bit of a fair advantage in that first sector as well, although they didn't even go purple. A 19.1 for them in the final sector. It's Alex Albon who goes 3.5 tenths behind. They're just under a tenth away from Lando Norris's time. It's a bit more like it, but it's still a little bit more complicated. They haven't pitted since the beginning of the session. Carlos Sainz to P2 to beat his teammate by a tenth and close the gap a little bit more to Oscar Piastri. Both splitting the Williams, almost as if we're in the 90s here. Charles Leclerc goes purple in the middle sector and takes the lap in the end by 3.5 tenths, destroys everyone else, but it's Hamilton who gets a tenth ahead of Piastri, 2.5 away from Leclerc, and puts himself into P2. That is brilliant stuff there. But it's Max Verstappen who has gone out late to try and get themselves some clear air. They don't seem to have any traffic in front of them for now, but we've got Lando Norris who's travelling very slowly. Will they end up blocking them? Lando Norris does move out the way, so they're all good to go. They will not get any traffic. They come up the final corner now, and they'll get the DRS on, ready to set this lap. Max Verstappen, purple in the middle sector. Will they go to the top of the times? They will do so by 1.5 tenths ahead of Leclerc, the home hero, the home favourite. The reigning champion is doing a phenomenal job, and it might be just enough to give it a good chance. Alonso to P3 with a brilliant lap considering the situation, but we've still got 9 minutes on the clock and expecting a few cars to go into the pit lane. It's Oliver Behrman who is improving once again, currently in P13. Ocon, their teammate, P6. Where does Behrman come out relative to their teammate? Ahead. They do go out ahead and over a tenth away as well. But it's Piastri who's in P6. They've done a cool-down lap and they're going to go again now with the purple first sector coming in. Everybody's improving. Yuki Tsunoda to P6. Still 4 tenths away, almost 5 from his teammate. It's good position-wise, but it's really not that amazing compared to what his teammate can do. It's all about hooking the lap up here in Monaco, a driver's circuit through and through, and it's going to be tough for everyone to deal with. Across the line there for Lando Norris, who goes top. Now we continue. Purple again for Charles Leclerc. We're just trading lap times. Piastri up behind his teammate now. We're continuing to roll them in. We really don't know what's going on until the final couple of minutes of the session. 8 on the clock. Still, we've got a couple of cars in the pit lane. That's Ocon, Lawson, Hadjar, Gasly, who's last at the moment, even behind Colapinto, who's been struggling throughout this weekend. Alpine really not getting on with the circuit. That's Sainz up to P6. But again, Verstappen improves in the first sector to be currently king as Leclerc goes to P2, doesn't beat Lando Norris. And there's Hamilton up to P5, but it's Max Verstappen who we expect to go quickly. Once again, we'll have some pretty clear road ahead of them, although Lando Norris is just up in front. I don't think they'll be blocking them as they go through the final corner already. And it will be Max Verstappen up to the line with DRS to go purple again. And there is Max Verstappen having an issue in that final sector and not able to make it work in the end. That's Lance Stroll complaining about the sun, saying that he thought Leclerc was Gasly, trying to move out the way. I think they got in the way by accident. Couldn't see because of the glare of the sun. Easily done at a sunny circuit like Monaco. As it is right now, George Russell improving. Where can they get themselves? After a miserable practice session, to P3 they go. It's Oscar Piastri, purple in the middle sector, to look to try and improve once more. DRS at the final corner and across the line. And there is Oscar Piastri, who does go to P1 with another purple final sector as well, 2 tenths ahead of Lando Norris. Maybe Leclerc was right. Maybe they really aren't in contention for pole position here in Monaco. On 3 pole positions right now, looking to try and get their 4th if they can. Of course, in 2021, Max Verstappen started in the 1st position as Leclerc didn't manage to make it to the start of the race as the car broke down beforehand. But they have had pole here in 2023 with one of the most masterful qualifying sessions you can ever witness. Cars continue to roll out the lap times and improve. There's Hulkenberg to P6. What could that Sauber do? We don't see many cars in the pit lane at the moment. Verstappen is the only one. So we're all getting ready for the fresh tyres already. It's Lando Norris who goes into the pit lane, maybe confident that they can get into the next part of qualifying with that lap time already. 11.3, just over a second off of last year's pole position. Hadjar to P7. And looking at the Q1 lap time that got knocked out last year, it was a 12.0. And then in Q2 it was an 11.7. So we have managed to improve a decent amount, but you need to make sure that you're getting into like the 11.9s, 11.8s if you want to try and be into the next session at all. Esteban Ocon up to P6, a circuit that he loves, on the podium in former years. With the famous quote, Esti Besti. Now we continue to see more drivers cross the lines. It was Charles Leclerc who went fastest once again. Will that be their final lap time on that very old tyre at this point? There's Colapinto across the line. P20 they stay. A miserable weekend doesn't get any better as the session continues. George Russell, though, has managed to find a decent time. Everybody's out on track right now. Hamilton leaves the pit lane. Verstappen has been out for a few corners or so. Actually, they're on a lap already, I believe. And ready to go. That's Tsunoda to P9, hoping that they can use that as the lap to make sure they're into Q2. They might have time to go one more time, but they're going to have to do a pretty speedy cooldown lap at this point if they do want one more lap. And it's going to get very crowded at the end of the lap to try and get those final lap times in. Albon across the line to get their Williams to P4. The team that have been looking strong this weekend and last weekend and in recent times are trying to make it into the next part of qualifying. It's a little bit iffy, but it's been fairly solid. We've got Sainz who's going green once again. They topped off Q2 last time around in Imola, and they go to P5 just behind their Thai teammate in the end. Just under a tenth away from Alex. We see Ocon going for another improvement to try and get them safer. Piastri and Norris are out on track, as one of them was in the pit lane earlier on. Hamilton is getting ready to start their next lap, and you can see the traffic is absolutely brutal. Everybody is currently slowing down, ready for the final moments. As you see a minute on the clock, Hamilton will begin their final run to try and make themselves safe. Hamilton currently very close to that drop zone, and with lots of cars who are improving lap after lap, it's a difficult one. Lawson needs to be doing a little bit better here. From what they've been showing throughout the weekends, they have been strong, especially in that FP3. Hadjar also. So the Racing Bulls looking to try and make it into the next part of qualifying. I think the Mercedes will be happy if they can get into Q3 at this point. But we focus on getting to Q2. 20 seconds on the clock, and we see these final laps begin. It's Behrman to P13. Is that going to be enough? Or Hamilton is going purple in the middle sector, and they're not going too quickly in the first sector. Down behind Gasly now. They've got to keep it clean at the final few corners, otherwise they're going to be out. Hamilton across the line, the DRS is open, and the time is done. What's it going to be? It's going to be P4. They'll be nice and safe there with that one. Verstappen crosses the line, and they're in P3 for now. Antonelli gets dropped by Hulkenberg, who goes to P10, trying to make themselves safe. It's going to be Colapinto, who will not improve in the session, I don't believe. Alonso to P7 with a brilliant lap using the experience. Bortoletto is improving. Norris to P2 ahead of Piastri. And we're going to see if anybody else can try and make a final improvement. It's Behrman, Gasly, Stroll, Colapinto, who will not be able to do anything. Bortoletto improves ahead of Hadjar, but Hadjar pushes him back down immediately. P11, and the Racing Bulls are in. Bortoletto will not make it through. It's Antonelli, who in P15 is just ahead and into the next part of qualifying. Russell doing that a brilliant job, but oh, it's actually Antonelli into the wall. Antonelli into the wall. The red flag is called at the final moments, and that is very, very lucky, but it might be that Antonelli may not have a chance at getting back to the pit lane and starting Q2. They're getting out of the car. That will be qualifying done for Kimi Antonelli, and they will start this race in P15. Behrman in P17 will start this race in P20. Such a shame there for Kimi Antonelli, who had a terrible weekend in Imola due to an engine fault and a retirement, of course. And now they have a tricky moment here in quali. I think he's hit the wall on the inside left side into turn 10, as Hadjar did in FP1, FP2, FP1. I think it was FP2. And what's basically happened is the tyres just completely burst. And they've ended up understeering left and then into the wall with no steering input. And that suspension isn't looking great, so there's going to be a bit of a clear-up job before we can go out on track. A slight barrier rebuild, hopefully nothing too much. Now qualifying is done, we'll go for the order. Q1 is done. Leclerc, Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, Russell, Hamilton, Albon, Alonso, Sainz, Tsunoda, Hadjar and Lawson follow each other, and it's Ocon with Hulkenberg in P14. Antonelli will not make it into Q2, although they've made it out of Q1. So they will start this race in P15, but they will not be able to continue qualifying as they make it back to the pit lane through the crane. And then it is Bortoleto, Behrman, Gasly, Stroll and Colapinto who are all knocked out here in qualifying. The Alpine really struggling from going to a podium a couple of years ago, now all the way to almost double last place. They'll get promoted by Oliver Behrman's grid penalty, of course, after their infringement. But we'll see how it goes. And actually, Stroll is also going to get demoted behind Colapinto. Verstappen frustrated as Lewis Hamilton's blocked him there in quali. Been right on the inside line as Verstappen was on their lap. Luckily, both drivers are safe, but still not ideal. That was a communication error between Verstappen and... between Hamilton and his engineer, as he was told Verstappen was going slow. So that's why he moved further ahead and jumped in front. So frustrating there for everyone. I'm not sure if anything will come of it, but it's not impossible that things do. Now everybody continues. The Mercedes, of course, are going to be in a bit of trouble. Struggling with Antonelli out the session now. That front left had that puncture, so that's why they understeered into the barrier. And they will not be able to get themselves in a good position for qualifying together. If you can get yourself in a position where you're qualifying right behind your teammates, then you can play Monaco to perfection. The car ahead, your teammate, if you drop back, can then get a free pit stop and you're all safe. You're all good to go. It's really situational, but it's still not impossible. Everyone waiting in their cars, waiting for the session to begin. And we've got confirmation that will be starting in about 4 minutes. Interestingly, a few cars have already gone out on track. or to the end of the pit lane. So Gasly had a lap time deleted. It was Behrman who had a lap time deleted. Piastri had a lap time deleted. We had also Ocon lap time deleted throughout that session. Ocon another one as well. So a few track limits from a few drivers. That will be mostly through the chicanes where they've cut the corners a little bit too much. That's the nature of qualifying in Monaco. Very, very difficult to get right. But as we see the red flag be cleared and we wait for the session to once again start. We just wait at the end of the pit lane, with Charles Leclerc being the one, I think, to be going first out. Max Verstappen takes this as an opportunity to get far up to the front of the grid as they wish to do so. Or as far as they can up the grid. Alrighty. We're just waiting for the final minutes, or the final minute. So far, we have seen quicker lap times here. But a few drivers weren't able to reach their best from earlier on. The teams wait for the green flag and we wait willingly as well, as there was of course the red flag at the end of Q1. Everybody had set their lap times. It was Kimi Antonelli who collided with the barrier as they pushed for one more time, and they ended up getting a puncture on the front left that caused them to understeer. Then they hit the barrier ahead of them. There's been a little bit of a barrier rebuild. The Mercedes has been moved out of the way, and now we can go out on track once again. Here we go. Q2 is upon us. We wait for the green flag at the end of the pit lane. We wait for the timer to count down. We wait for the session to begin. It should begin in a matter of moments, I will tell you now. And it's Kimi Antonelli who goes back to the pit lane, not happy at all. Still got a red flag for the minute. Green, we are go. Once again, qualifying is here. We see Hülkenberg leave the pit lane first. Actually, I thought it was Verstappen, but no, it's not. It's Hülkenberg who will be ahead, then Albon. So actually, everybody's just tried to get queued up at the end of the pit lane, which is interesting because you're sat there waiting as the car is pretty hot. So I didn't expect all the teams to do that, but they did, and that's the situation we're in. So far, we have had a bit of impeding from Hamilton and Verstappen. Hamilton was told that Verstappen was slowing down ahead of them, or behind them, sorry. So Hamilton then decided he was going to move into position, or into the corner. Ended up blocking Verstappen. Both drivers were comfortably into the session. It looks like there's going to be no penalty. I'm not sure why. I would have expected something or a mention at least, but nothing's been noted, and we just continue with the session. Q2 is here. We've got a mix, once again, of mediums and softs. I really did believe that we would be running on the soft tyre throughout. We wouldn't get any medium tyres at all. But no, I'm wrong. And I'm wrong big time. A lot of teams are doing this as well. There's Albon on the mediums. We've got Leclerc on the mediums. Hamilton on the mediums. And so is Sainz. So both Williams have set their laps, or are going to be setting their laps pretty swiftly. Are the ones on those mediums. It's Hulkenberg who will set their lap time first as we see them go through the rest of the circuit up to the tunnel section. 48, tunnel, and into the Novo chicane. And then into back through the swimming pool section for Nico Hulkenberg. On the exit, they get through the chicane nicely. The Rasgas up next to the final corner they go. And then we will see them get to the DRS line as they go to the start-finish line. And actually to the timing line. Costing the beam, it's a P1. Of course it is, 22.4. That is not the quickest lap time we've seen around Monaco. We're going to see Ocon, we're going to see Albon, we're going to see Sainz. Actually, Verstappen before Sainz. Verstappen across the line. Who's going to start a lap, I do apologise. Alonso goes fastest. Albon also had a difficult beginning, but Alonso's really dialed it in pretty quickly. Lawson as well. They've had some good times on track, haven't they? Lawson and Alonso are the quickest. Sainz has also backed off on their lap on that medium tyre. Leclerc goes fastest by 0.3 on the medium compared to Lawson and Alonso on that fresh soft tyre. So really difficult on what to do here. What decision will they make? Will we see George Russell on that medium tyre? Well, they've struggled throughout the weekend, and they are on that medium tyre. Will we see them complete their final lap on it? I don't know. The two McLarens on the soft tyres, they go to the top of the times. Well, it's Norris for now, but it's purple in the first sector for Oscar Piastri, 18.5 at the moment, and 18.666 for Lando Norris. But that's a big slow down moment there for Piastri in the middle sector. So they've backed off this lap already. Verstappen is going to cross the line to set their first time lap of the session. Here we go in Q2. That's P2. 1.5 tenths back. Ooh. Russell having an issue. They say they've hit a bump and they've lost power. They're currently in the tunnel section, and I don't think they can get the car moving. So we're going to see a red flag come out, and George Russell will have to move. That's another mechanical fault, it seems. Maybe electrical this time if it's just a bump and it's been moved around. But Mercedes continue their woes from Imola. Really frustrating. Having such a glowing start to the season, getting Antonelli on pole in sprint qualifying, and now they've got two cars out in qualifying at Monaco. He's trying to restart the car once more to see if they can do it from the cockpit before they try and get out. Everybody's going to be going back into the pit lane with 10 minutes on the clock as the red flag is once again waved for the second time in qualifying here. As it stands, with Russell not setting a lap time at all, P14 and P15 it could be for the two Mercedes drivers unless there's a grid penalty. George Russell still can't find a way to get this car started. No battery, says the engineers, so it is done. And George Russell will climb out the car and make it back to the pit lane. Toto Wolff not happy at all. The one circuit that you don't want to have difficulties like this at is Monaco. George Russell has had it. Antonelli has crashed. Mercedes will be P14 and P15. And now there are 2 spots for some other drivers that don't usually make it into Q3 to now have a good chance. Could we see both Racing Bulls into the next part of qualifying as they've had a pretty good practice session? George Russell sitting in the car and looking to try and steer it as the marshals behind push the car. George trying to get back in the car now, but not able to. Yep, they are back in the car and steering it all the way. Oh, they've messed up the steering a little bit as they tried to get back into position. So he sat back in the cockpit to make sure he can slow it down. Watching on board with Russell. Just on the exit of turn 1 as they went up the hill through turns 2. So, yeah, really frustrating and confusing. That is electrical for the power unit. And they did roll all the way down the hill as they could. They were able to make it work for a bit, but it was heavy on the steering, so they lost power steering, it looked. And Mercedes will see that car rolled back to the inside of the circuit. And they see the Monaco marshals pushing the car back in. The red flag continues, but we don't get confirmation of when we'll be starting. Alonso had a lap time deleted before we had these issues. That was earlier on in the session of Q2, however, or the segment. George Russell's car is now out of the way and good to go. And we will see the session once again restart very shortly. Lando Norris really performing quite well and has quite a nice amount of comfort here in the session. They can be quite relaxed in the way they drive this session. I'm sure they'll be thankful for that. And of course we see the opportunity for many other drivers to get something out of this as the Mercedes cars are out. The track is clear and we wait for the confirmation from the FIA until we are allowed to go back out to the pit lane and get ready for the start of the session. Many cars getting prepared, but still having to wait for that confirmation. You're not allowed to go until they get told the time that the session will resume. It's interesting how it's taking as long as it is to get that confirmation. We've got Hulkenberg, who's made his way halfway out the pit lane, not into the fast lane. So of the Racing Bulls, that's Isaac Hadjar doing the same thing. They're making sure that they can get ahead and have that clean air in front. With 10 minutes on the clock, you don't want to be in trouble here. You don't want to be lacking. 44 minutes. We'll see a restart in about 3 minutes' time. They're just double checking everything is safe and good to go before we do go back out on track. This is going to take a little bit of time, but just welcome to Monaco. Well, welcome to qualifying. Welcome to Red Flag City, aka Monaco. I knew we were going to get a few. It's inevitable. But to make sure everyone's safe, it's something that you have to do. So a few cars look like they could be going out on track once again on that medium tyre. Is that the wise thing to do? Do you want to try and save your tyres for the race? Well, it's a bit fiddy-fiddy, isn't it? It's a bit complicated. Ultimately, you have to put all of your eggs in the qualifying basket. Otherwise, you find yourself in a bit of trouble. And right now, those eggs are being put in the basket for Hamilton Sainz, Leclerc and Albon, all on that medium, unless they've changed it and we just don't know it yet. Waiting for the minute to come, and then we will be once again green flagged and ready to go. Less than a minute to go now. The green flag will appear very, very shortly, and we can get back to qualifying. 10 minutes to go in this session. 10 minutes of madness. Would we see a few cars go into the pit lane for fresh tyres after they go out now? Probably. But there will be a few that maybe don't do that and they just try and stay out and continue to put the pace in, as that's what Charles Leclerc did in Q1. Once again, Hulkenberg leads the way out of the pit lane first. It's the Williams that follow on again. A bit of deja vu there, just exactly repeating everything. George Russell makes it back to the pit lane and does the walk of shame to the garage. It's going to be frustrating, but not much they can do about that one. We've just got to focus on the race pace tomorrow and hope that they have some answers. The ideas that they ran out of yesterday, will they come about on Sunday? Looking at the weather, we're not going to see any rain tomorrow, so it's going to either have to be a strategy masterclass of the 2 pit stop strategy that is being demanded by Pirelli to make the racing a little bit more interesting, or it's game over. So Piastri 18.504, that was the fastest first sector in Q2. What can we see from a few drivers now as Hulkenberg is going to be once again the first one to start a lap. Then Albon, then Sainz. The same medium tyre for Albon. The same medium tyre for Fernando Alonso and for Sainz. And those are the only drivers out on that medium tyre. Everybody else has gone either on fresh or scrub soft tyres. If we see the scrub tyres, either they're saving for later on and hoping to get into Q3, or they're going to be going into the pit lane and coming back out again on fresh tyres. If they are on the fresh soft tyres, then it looks like that is going to be their final stop, their final destination, and they won't be going back into the pit lane. That's, for example, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, who are following the same strategy at the moment, looking to go all out here in qualifying at this point onwards. Hulkenberg comes into the swimming pool section. We'll leave it. We wait to see if their car's stationary. It's not, and it's nice and quick into Larascas. The final corner is upon them, and the final run up to the line is 2, and across it they will go. And they don't manage to improve overall. They improve in the final sector, but they don't actually improve their lap time. Still close to it, just not enough. Just not enough. It's the Williams now that will follow suit. It's Albon who is not improving. They've backed off already. It's Carlos Sainz who's doing the same thing. They're just doing a kind of warm-up lap, doing 2 warm-up laps to make sure that they're up to temperature, and now we'll see them push to see if they can improve. Hadjar to P4. Brilliant lap there from the Frenchman. 4.5 tenths away, though, from Lando Norris. Still got some progress to be made. It is Charles Leclerc, purple, in the first sector. A little bit quicker than whoever's lap time it was, or sector time. Oscar Piastri's, I think, earlier on, 19.453. It's now an 18.446 there for Leclerc. An 18.594 for Hamilton, who goes 3 tenths behind his teammate. A Ferrari 1-2, nevertheless, but still 3 tenths is quite a big gap. It's Charles Leclerc around Monaco. I don't think you can be too disappointed with 3 tenths. If you get to 4, then you might be having a few questions. And now it's a 10.581. Of course, we will once again repeat the qualifying lap time from last season in Monaco was a 10.270 from Charles Leclerc. A 10.270. Keep that in your minds. We're almost there. We're almost beating the best times. Q2 was, or has already been beaten, I think. It's Charles Leclerc who is topping the times with 5 minutes to go. We're seeing a few more cars going through the lap to improve. Alonso is one of those cars right now on that medium tyre as they go through the tunnel section and pass Lewis Hamilton to clear the traffic. Yuki Tsunoda is going to come up to the line as they start another lap, and their final couple of laps of the session on a fresh soft tyre as well to make it work. Verstappen in the pit lane, so is Hadjar now after setting their lap. Hulkenberg 2. Ocon, the only Haas driver in P12 at the moment, and then of course the 2 Mercedes who will not take part in the rest of qualifying. Unless there's a driver that gets impeded and ends up splitting the 2 Mercedes or dropping behind the 2 Mercedes, that will be it for them. Fernando Alonso to P7 as they cross the line. It's Lando Norris to P1 by a tiny, tiny margin in the end. 0.00 or 0.011 seconds there for Lando Norris. Purple in the final sector, not in the first 2, but still quick, and that's a scrub tyre as well, so they are saving a little bit here for the final sector, whereas, or final section of qualifying, whereas the Ferraris are not so much. Lawson across the line, they go to P9. They're going to want a bit more than that to be safe. Of course, they only need to beat 3 cars right now. Hulkenberg, Ocon, and Tsunoda the ones to beat, but Tsunoda's just immediately beaten Hadjar to push them down. Still not enough here from Yuki Tsunoda, who's on that fresh tyre. Max Verstappen is out on track to show us what the Red Bull can do. It's Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon, who once again leave, and they're now out on the soft tyres. So they've been doing some running on the mediums to try and get some kind of grips of the track. But now we've got 3.5 minutes to go on the clock, and they do bring it up. They do dial it in. Let's see what those Williams can do. They've been strong throughout the weekend. Can they be strong where it matters? Q2 is important here. Q3, of course, if you get there, it's important. But Q2 is even more important, because if you don't get through Q2, you don't get to Q3. You've got to make sure that you push through. It's even more competitive than Q1. It's easier to make a mistake. It's easier to get knocked out. A little easier to not get knocked out compared to usual weekends because of the two outages from the Mercedes drivers. Verstappen begins their lap as they run up the hill and into S8, where Hamilton crashed earlier on, past the casino section, and then into Mirabeau, followed into the hairpin as well. Hulkenberg just in front of them, but they should move out the way, and then they will go past the water on their left and into the tunnel, heading towards the Novo chicane, where they tried to go for the dive bomb in 2019 at Lewis Hamilton. Didn't work, but they don't have a car in front of them this time, so they can continue to push. Green in the first sector to back corner, very close to the wall on the exit. Then they go into the swimming pool section, and absolutely phenomenal stuff. Incredibly close to the wall. Not quite like 23, where they ended up hitting the wall, but still power sliding as they enter the final corner. DRS across the line as Max Verstappen absolutely sends it. To P3 they go. Still 3/10 away from Lando Norris. 3/10 away from Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri crosses the line, and that is a push lap from them. P5, they will not improve their lap time. They aren't too far away from it, of course, but they still will not improve. And that is going to be a bit of a worry here for Oscar Piastri, the championship leader, the man with the most pole positions out of anyone so far this season. Well, Charles Leclerc's going for their first in 2025 if they can. They've got a very good chance of doing it. Verstappen's also in the running, and Lando Norris currently holds that top time, but we still got to get through Q2. Alonso very, very happy with their lap in 7th position, showing some joy after setting their lap. They say, yeah, box, box, I cannot do more, with a little bit of a voice crack to add to that as well. Interesting to see. Yuki Tsunoda's had their lap time deleted. Albon's now got the purple first sector of a 0.369. We're really ramping it up now. Hadjar did have that fastest first sector with the 0.4, but the 0.3 is looking very, very tasty indeed. Alonso is into the pit lane, and I don't know if we're going to see them come out. Well, no, I know we're not going to see them come out again. That is going to be it for the Aston Martin driver. Where will they finish this session in the end? Will they get themselves into Q3? They only need to beat 3 drivers. Well, they beat Esteban Ocon, who gets themselves into P8. That will be it. It's Lawson who bumps Ocon back down to P8 themselves. What will happen further back? Carlos Sainz is looking to improve, but it's Hadjar to P6, pushing massively, and they could knock their teammate out. Albon to P3. Carlos Sainz looks to try and make it work, but they're out. Oh, Carlos Sainz is out of qualifying in Q2. I do not believe it. And it's Yuki Tsunoda who will also lose out in the end. Hulkenberg is not on a push lap, and qualifying is done. Esteban Ocon has made it through into Q3, where his teammate is P17 and will start the Grand Prix in last place. Absolutely exceptional stuff here. Piastri is improving. They don't need to. They might go straight back into the pit lane, but no, they are pushing the limits. They actually lost the car on the exit of Raskas, but they do finish the lap and cross the line to P4. Alex Albon a brilliant lap to P3, showing what the Williams could do, but it's Carlos Sainz with an 11.362. Wow. I think Yuki Tsunoda's frustrated with some traffic. Someone maybe blocked them. Am I wrong in saying it's Hadjar? I'm not entirely sure. As Nico Hulkenberg does have a hell of a time with the wall in the swimming pool section. Doesn't really concern the team too much as it's only a little bit of a touch. Yuki Tsunoda into the Novo chicane then. As actually no, I think they just rode the curb into the chicane and lost it all in that part of the circuit. So no traffic really at all. That was all ruined in the chicane by themselves. And that is that. Carlos Sainz will be frustrated, very disappointed. Complaining about the grip on the tyre, saying that they're not enjoying the soft tyre. It's Fernando Alonso, who for the second weekend in a row gets themselves into Q3 by qualifying on the medium tyre. Carlos Sainz, the other Spaniard, wanted to be on that medium tyre for qualifying. They decided to go for the soft to try and get that peak performance, but it's so hard to get right, and they end up out. By a tenth as well off Esteban Ocon, so not the smallest of margins. Ocon getting that lap when it mattered, making it work really, really nicely. Q3 will start in about 5 minutes' time. Esteban Ocon incredibly happy with their qualifying effort. Brilliant stuff from the Frenchman. Brilliant stuff from both Frenchmen, Hadjar and Ocon. Gasly's going to be disappointed with that one. P18 for them as their two countrymen go through. But it's Lando Norris who tops the times. It's Charles Leclerc in P2. That's a 10.570 there for Lando Norris. It's a 10.581 for Charles Leclerc. Albon with a brilliant lap for P3. Then it's Piastri, Verstappen, Hamilton, Hadjar, Alonso, Liam Lawson, Esteban Ocon in P10. Knocked out was Carlos Sainz, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg. And then the two Mercedes of Russell, then Antonelli, who didn't get lap times done due to difficulties throughout. We will wait for the session to resume. We'll be back in a second. Alrighty, we're back. And we're almost ready to go qualifying once again here for the final time in Monte Carlo. The Monaco Grand Prix starting grid for the top 10 will be decided in a matter of moments. We wait for the final minute. We wait for the green light at the end of the pit lane. The cars are stacking up at the end of the pit lane. This time, Nico Hülkenberg will not be the one to queue up first. Will it be Alex Albon, who had a brilliant lap in the end there? Absolutely phenomenal. It's Charles Leclerc who leaves the pit lane to try and do it for the 4th time in their career. Pole position at their home race, giving them the best chance at possibly winning. Well, considering that they've had 3 and they've only won 1, you would think that it's not really that great, but they've had some misfortune in their time, and they did win when it all went well in 2024 last year. This is where the money is made or earned by the drivers. This is what matters. Monaco qualifying, the one event of the year. Alex Albon does indeed make it out to the track first. It's Esteban Ocon follows, and it's Alonso in P3. Oscar Piastri sits right behind. Let's see what we can do. No more notes. Nothing I can really say now. Just memory of what happened earlier on in practice. We had Antonelli crash at the end of Q1, causing the red flag, and they weren't able to make any progress in Q2. George Russell had a red flag moment as their car stopped on the circuit in the tunnel section. They couldn't get it restarted. They didn't make any progress in Q2. We saw Sainz get knocked out after struggling with that soft tyre. The medium tyre seems to be strong. We saw Max Verstappen complaining about that tyre, the C6 soft tyre, in FP3. Still running it though in qualifying, as most drivers are. Alonso is also running a scrub set right now. But it's Esteban Ocon who's on a fresh set of medium tyres very early on. Now I say early on, this is the shortest session of the 3. You've got Q1, Q2, Q3, and they have 18 minutes, then 15, then 12 minutes on the clock. It means that it's a little bit more urgent to get out on track and do some things, but you've only got 10 cars out on track, so there should be less traffic. That being said, we do have Hamilton who's out on track, and he's been causing some traffic throughout the weekend, so he's got to make sure that he keeps an eye on his mirrors, and he has to hope that his team tells him if there's a car approaching behind. We've also got the medium tyre for Alex Albon, who went back into the pit lane and came back out once again. So they scrapped the soft tyre for now. It's Piastri going purple in the first sector. It's Leclerc and Hadjar who are going green at the moment. Purple sector in the middle. I'm not entirely sure who holds it. I do apologise, sorry. Leclerc to P2. They haven't set a lap time just yet. So it will be Esteban Ocon who goes first on this medium tyre. What can be done by the Frenchman, the only Haas driver in qualifying, trying to have a bit of an up for the team. And that is a 19.7. So they've backed off a little bit. They're going for 2 push laps, I'd assume. That seems to be the way it's going. But it's Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris who are trading purple sectors. The Aussie goes over the line, and to P1, the championship leader is. Lando Norris is going to come up to the line as well. It's Liam Lawson who will go ahead, but they're just setting a lap time for now. It's Lando Norris who beats their teammate by just over half a tenth of a second. Hamilton will go across, and to P3, half a second away from Lando Norris's time. What's going on with the Ferraris that have been so strong so far? Charles Leclerc across the line. They're not going purple anywhere. They do beat their teammate by a fair bit, and they're nice and close to the back of the McLarens, but still really not looking as good as it seemed. Hadjar to P5, really improving behind the cars that we expect to be in front throughout this session. Of course, Verstappen and Albon seem to be the next quickest cars, which is weird to say, they're not in the same team. Esteban Ocon improves once again. It's Fernando Alonso who's going green at the moment. Once again finding themselves into the next part of qualifying. They're on an old scrub set of tyres at this point. We've had Hadjar get their lap time deleted, so they're going to have to try and improve once again. Fernando Alonso across the line to P6. They will not be able to go any further. Hadjar does go down the order and gets dropped completely. Lawson crosses the line to set a banker for now. But that is the flurry of lap times done for the moment. Verstappen is the next one to go ahead. Currently the only one to really do anything too much on track. Out the final corner, what can the Dutchman do? Can they bring it in for a possible contention for pole position here in Monaco? And they go to P4, 2 tenths away from the McLarens. Charles Leclerc seemed to be the man to beat. P1 in FP1, FP2 and FP3, all of practice. They've been quick in qualifying, but McLaren have really ramped it up here in the final stages where it matters most for the top teams. Leclerc will sit behind, but it's Verstappen who splits the two Ferraris, sits very, very close to the back of Leclerc. We knew that Verstappen was going to be pretty close relative to Leclerc. We didn't see the McLarens go as quick as they are until now. And this is absolutely incredible. 10.464, we've not quite beaten the pole time of last year just yet. We've still got a few minutes to go here in qualifying to see what can happen. Is Alex Albon across the line on that medium tyre? And it's going to be a P6 for them. They may have to go into the pit lane and come back out on a soft tyre. They've got their banker done on that medium. Esteban Ocon, of course, has done the same thing as well. And they are fairly close to each other. Alex Albon hoping that they could do a little bit more than that, really. It's Lando Norris who's hoping to do more out right about now as they go out on track. I think it's Piastri will follow just in front of them ahead. The two McLarens go again. They march their way out of the pit lane in a rolling fashion. They give each other some space on track. They've got 5 minutes on the clock to do this. They're going to give themselves some safety margin for error, but they're also going to lose out on some track evolution. Lewis Hamilton getting incredibly close to the entry of the final chicane, using that curb on the exit a little bit. And I will say, I'm not trying to be rude here, but they definitely haven't been so elegant with that barrier on the inside line. They've been hitting it a little bit harder than most drivers have been throughout the weekend. So Hamilton needs to try and get that sorted. Otherwise, if they do it maybe a few more times, they might find themselves in a bit of trouble here. And now they really don't need it. Well, I would have dared to say it could have been a Ferrari 1-2. I would have dared to say it could have been Leclerc and Verstappen on the front row of the grid. Right now, I'm doubting everything that I've ever thought. The two McLarens are the only ones on track at the moment, almost doing a victory lap before qualifying has even finished, as they are 1-2 by almost 2 tenths of a second ahead. Split with Lando Norris and Piastri. Lando Norris has finished P3 and P2, I believe, as well. Piastri finished P2 last season, whereas Norris, it was P4. Both drivers have at least had a podium around this circuit and know what they're doing. It's just whether it goes right in qualifying. Oscar Piastri pushes the limits like an absolute madman. Almost 2 tenths ahead in the first sector alone with a 2.29, but it's Lando Norris who marginally edges ahead. Absolutely brilliant between the two teammates, the two championship contenders. Lando Norris needs to try and find something on their teammate with the momentum going towards the Australian driver. It's into the second sector. Oscar Piastri will go to get the lap done first ahead of the two drivers, the two teammates. 33.301 here from Oscar. Lando Norris is going to go across the sector line as well. What can we see from Lando? It's a 33.434. Piastri is looking to improve. Will they have it? Will they have enough here in qualifying? That is Oscar Piastri ahead with 2 minutes on the clock. 3.5 tenths almost to Lando Norris, who's crossed the line. What's it going to be? Oh, and he's done him in the final sector. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible from Lando Norris. A mistake there for Oscar Piastri. An 18.69 from Lando Norris, who is on top of the times. And that could quite be it here for the McLarens. There might not be anything else to be done. Charles Leclerc is preparing for their final runs. Everyone is preparing for their final runs here in Monte Carlo. And it's 5 tenths that they've got to find and more to try and have a go at pole position. 2 minutes remaining. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are the top drivers on the grid as of now. Hamilton begins their final qualifying run. What will the McLarens be doing? Are they going for cool down laps and then going again? Or are they going straight into the pit lane and calling it a day? Hamilton gets through turn 3 nice and safely this time compared to what they had in practice 3. Down into Mirabeau. The hairpin is upon them now. 1.5 tenths away from Lando Norris's fastest time. Not bad at all, as they do still improve at least. But many drivers are also improving. And Charles Leclerc is much quicker than their teammate here in the first sector. Lewis Hamilton continues though. They are going to be the next car to set a competitive lap time. Lawson and Hadjar are actually going around to try and improve. We'll see what they can do. Lawson up to the line. What's it going to be from the New Zealander? P6 for Liam Lawson. Hadjar is going to follow along. What can they do? Hadjar still across the line, and they do get there to P5. Hamilton though now across the line. What can we see? The Brit do. The 7-time champion goes to P3. 2.5 tenths behind Piastri. Leclerc comes out of the final corner. Purple in the middle sector. Charles Leclerc DRS. Will they get there? Will they get the job done? The home hero. Oh, they've done it. They've done it. Wow. Absolutely incredible. Half a tenth ahead. Verstappen is going to give it a shot. What can they do? They cross the line. Oh, and it's not going to be enough. They will not improve. Max Verstappen stays P5. It's Piastri who's purple in the first sector. They go again. And it's not going to be enough for Oscar Piastri. As they don't get the job done, they improve, but they will not beat Lando Norris. Oh, Norris has done him. He's got the job done in the final moment. A tenth ahead. He's found a little bit more. He didn't get there in the final sector, but sector 1 and 2 is enough. And 109 point of a second. Absolutely incredible qualifying session we've just had. I thought it was Charles Leclerc's day again, but no, Lando Norris will qualify on pole position for the Monaco Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc in P2, and it's Oscar Piastri, his teammate, in P3. Absolutely incredible stuff. Last year, we saw Ferrari, McLaren as the finishing and start order of the race. Now we see McLaren, Ferrari. Verstappen in P5, Hadjar with a brilliant session to P6. It's Alonso in P7. They're going to be happy with that. So is Esteban Ocon. Liam Lawson in P9, a fair bit behind their teammate in the end. And it's Alex Albon, who didn't get the lap together in the final moments, and they will start tomorrow's race in P10. A bit disappointing considering what we're expecting, but considering their teammates, they are going to be right together and looking for at least a couple of points, if not 1 point, to their team campaign. Lando Norris is on pole position, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Absolutely incredible stuff there in qualifying from everyone. A brilliant, brilliant watch. I was looking forward to that all weekend, and I'm just sad to say it's over. Absolutely awesome. Lando Norris is on pole position. It's Charles Leclerc, it's Piastri, Hamilton, Verstappen, Hadjar, Alonso, Ocon, Lawson, Albon in P10. It's then Carlos Sainz who's knocked out in Q2. That's Tsunoda right behind with Hulkenberg, Russell, Antonelli, Bortoletto, Behrman, Gasly, Stroll and Colapinto at the back of the pack. The pole time was at 09.954, a brilliant lap there to get to the 09s, and it's Leclerc with a 10.063, a 10.129 there for Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris, the championship challenger in P2, is looking strong and looking to try and take a bigger chunk out of Oscar Piastri's championship lead. I want to double check on what the championship lead is at the moment. I was looking at it earlier on today. 13 points. If they win, they get 7 points on P2, plus another 3 points. That'd be 10. So they'd be going 3 points apart into the following race into Spain, which would be absolutely incredible. What a session we've had. I will say that for sure. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. The best qualifying session of the year is done, and one of the most special races will happen tomorrow. Do enjoy it. I will definitely be doing so. Have a good one. Thank you very much once again for watching. It's been a pleasure. We will see you next time in Spain, Catalonia, next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.